way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Rebel Force Radio presents
There is only one way. The way of the Mandalore.
The Mandalorian. After show. After show.
I have spoken.
Well, you know, I was waiting for a hero to emerge out of the ranks of the New Republic, because really everyone that we've seen that's associated with the new government, you know, they're less than desirable people, I think. You know, we saw the Mind Flayer a couple weeks ago, and it bugged me a little bit, because I was thinking, well, what are we fighting for if we're just going to install another totalitarian regime that goes over the top with their security measures and all that stuff? But I tell you, a hero did emerge in the form of Captain Carson Teva this week. We have a guy in the ranks of the New Republic with integrity, and he's taken it to the bureaucrats. That's right, the bureaucrats in the form. What was the guy from the Goldbergs and on SNL, longtime SNL cast member? His name, of course, is escaping me right now. I know I've got it. I wrote it down, folks, so I take copious notes throughout the episode. Tim Meadows. That's right, Tim Meadows. Funny guy. The last person I expected to show up in a Star Wars TV series, honestly. I mean, that was like well, I don't know. I wouldn't say like a cup of cold water, because that you wouldn't welcome. Tim Meadows, I think, is a welcome figure, but definitely a surprise. Definitely a surprise. But I'll tell you what's not a surprise, and that is that you're back with another episode of the Mandalorian After Show, brought to you by Rebel Force Radio. So grateful to be with you this week, and you spending this time together and breaking down another episode of the Mandalorian, and I think an episode that is chock full of great Star Wars goodness. So if you're new to the program, welcome. Introductions in order. My name is Jason, and with me, as always, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. I got my Courvoisier. Would you like to join me?
The ladies' man.
Forgot about the ladies'
yes.
man. Well, yeah, you know, I think a lot of people forgot about the ladies' man. I said that to my, I made that Courvoisier reference to my Gen Z son this morning, and he gave me the blankest of blank stares you can ever give someone. I'm like,
Did
Tim
you think
Meadows,
you were doing a Billy D?
Ladies' man. He goes, what is that? What, Courvoisier? What's the matter with you? And I said, well, no, it's Tim Meadows. You know, he's like that guy was on Saturday Night Live, right? The ladies' man was an SNL bit that evolved into a movie. Yes, Billy D. Williams was there. It's a sad thing. They didn't give Billy D any good dialogue in that movie. Because for the longest time, people, when we were doing the Billy D quote of the week, people were recommending the ladies' man to me. And I would watch it and I'd say, God, there's nothing quote-worthy coming out of Billy D's mouth in this whole movie. When the whole movie was essentially based on Billy D. Williams.
Yeah, I was going to say,
it was
who else could be the inspiration for the ladies' man better than Billy D? And he still had no...
Exactly.
I have not seen that movie, because I remember that exact reason, which is you said, well, Billy D doesn't really have much to do in it.
He doesn't. It's so disappointing.
What a waste.
But Tim Meadows is great as the character. I've always liked Tim Meadows. He was one of those really durable actors on Saturday Night Live who was with the show for a long time. He's a Chicago-based guy. He's made phone calls into my wife's radio show from time to time just because he's listening. And he was playing Colonel Tuttle, a New Republic requisitions officer.
That sounds exciting.
I thought he was going to get himself.
Sounds like he's filing TPS reports all day long. I'm in requisitions,
exposed.
you know.
We are being exposed to some of the more mundane positions in the Star Wars universe here post-Empire. It appears that there's a lot of boring jobs, and it requires sifting through data cards and organizing them and whatnot. So anytime somebody gets presented with a box of these data cards, we've seen it now in like 3 different shows, the look of dread that washes over the person's face when it gets delivered to them.
Yeah,
like
this is it. This is the new office. Look for the Star Wars office coming to Disney Plus And a year from now,
Tim Meadows
probably...
was on The Office.
Yes, that's right.
Remember
Tim
when
Meadows
Tim was on The Office? When
That's
they had the
right.
bloomin' onion? And you're like, I want my baby back ribs. Remember that?
I
He
love
got
that
hammered
episode.
with Michael Scott. Yeah.
Right. And Michael Scott sealed the sealed the deal.
Sealed the deal.
Got the sale. All right. Well, yeah, so we were just looking here. We got a photo for those of you listening to the audio podcast. By the way, if you're listening to the audio podcast, well, we love having you, and that's a great way to do it. But you can also watch all of the after shows on YouTube. So, a lot of times we reference photos as we're talking about some of the great visuals that show up in these series. So it's another way to experience the RFR after show, and we welcome you to join us there. So let's get to the tail of the tape and get into this episode. We are talking about Season 3, Episode 5, Chapter 21, The Pirate. Directed by Peter Ramsey. If that name doesn't sound familiar to you, then you probably haven't seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
That's right.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that, actually.
I saw
I
the
hear
first
nothing
one. I
but
know they have a
good things about
follow-up
that.
coming out. I saw the first one. And I enjoyed it a great deal. Watched it with the kids while we were on vacation. And, all movies are better when you're on vacation. I will tell you that. A lot of times you'll watch something, you're like, that was a great movie. Well, it is also nice because you were on the beach. That helps. But anyway, Peter Ramsey also did a lot of the DreamWorks animation titles for a while there. So an animation guy stepping into live action with The Mandalorian. This episode written by Jon Favreau. And, of course, those themes, very familiar, by Ludwig Göransson, a score by Joseph Shirey. And I talk about this every week, but this was out of the mouths of babes, I have to say. My son noticed this week, and I haven't said a word to him. Now, he does watch the after shows, so there is that. But he just said, the music sounds different this week, Dad. And that was that was an observation he had with this week. And it was when they showed the Mandalorian logo as you're coming out of the sort of the opening sequence. And he just thought that sounded different to him.
That's right.
Sound
very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's kind of a crunchy sound going on there, without breaking it all down. But, I mean, I like that. Göransson, when he was composing the individual episodes, he would always find different ways to present some of that signature Mandalorian music.
Mm-hmm.
And what we heard during the title card, that sounded really cool to me. I really enjoyed that because it just sounded so weird and different. I can't really break it down and analyze it. I just noted that. And can I also say I'm really sick of that intro where they show all the helmets and it makes that weird music.
Somebody mentioned
Star Wars music in that. That music it has nothing to do with Star Wars. When I see the Star Trek thing at the beginning of like a Picard show, just beautiful, colorful thing with the Enterprise swooping in, and you hear the classic Star Trek music.
It's so great in Picard.
Simple little touch like this. The packaging means a lot. And I think that helmet thing is already super tired by now. It's been around for 4 years now. Let's get rid of it.
I agree.
Something better.
Someone asked me, and I'll throw it out to the chat because I'm sure they flash through all those helmets. And someone asked me who the Mandalorian helmet was. And they're claiming that it's not Mando and it's not Boba Fett. So if you know who it is, I thought it was Mando.
What?
I thought it was Mando.
It's interesting because, like the lightsabers, the coloring means something. You see blue reflecting on all the helmets, and then you see red reflecting on helmets. And it seems very specific. Blue, good guy. Red, bad guy. So when they show that Mandalorian helmet, it's red. I noticed this last week. It's red. So
which would imply bad guy, right?
Bad guy.
And bad Mando, whatever.
Bad Mando. And maybe by the time we get to the end of this conversation tonight, we might be talking about the potential for bad Mando showing up. because I think we're getting teased with some bad Mandos.
Okay. Well, by the way, the runtime minus the end credits, almost exactly 38 minutes this episode. let's talk about Bad Mando in the context of, we do these after shows. We have these great discussions. We talk about where we think the plot is going. We lay out all these ideas like there's going to be a battle and a struggle for power and Bo-Katan, and it's going to be Bo and Mando and this and that. And then all of a sudden, Armorer just invites Bo-Katan down to the basement, has a little chat, says, hey, guess what? You're going to be the one that's going to unite all of our people. Take off your helmet. No conflict, no battle, no riding in on a mythosaur, none of that. Now, I'm not saying that some of that might not happen, but Jim, were you surprised at how sort of quickly and maybe uneventfully that seemed to just get dealt with?
Yeah. Sort of came out of nowhere, didn't it?
Right.
Now, obviously, the armor is very affected by the fact that Bo is reporting she saw the mythosaur. And the armor pretty much admits that she never really believed in that. She never actually believed in the reality of the mythosaur. It was always something of it's in the name. It's a myth. And now she's hearing from someone who says she actually saw it. And we're talking flesh and blood, not some vision. Well, I think that's opening the armorer's eyes a little bit. This could be, the premiere of the Messiah, the Mandalorian Messiah, just like all the songs and poems spoke of. So she believes Bo really did see it. That to me was kind of debatable at the end of last week, but now she really.
Do you think it was
Bo
debatable? I felt like they didn't leave a whole lot of room there. She was definitely trying to say to Bo in so many words, what you saw was some sort of epiphany for someone who is now learning to walk the way and has rededicated themselves to the creed. And then, so what might have happened? I guess there's a couple ways to look at this. Did something happen in this episode that made the armorer reconsider, or was that a test for Bo-Katan, a test of her faith to sort of downplay it? Or was it the armorer didn't want to believe that it was possible? My head's been spinning all day on this issue.
Yeah. A little more illustration to what was going on there would have been welcomed with open arms. She goes in there and meets the armorer back in their old hangout.
Yeah.
And Armor starts talking about the Great Forge on Mandalore. So where there's the air is ringing with a sound of 100 hammers, my friend. Clank, 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 clank. Wow, sounds wonderful. But that's a place. So I wonder, is she foreshadowing that? She will return to that Great Forge. The armorer will. And she wants that. That's what she wants now. Now that she's realizing, a lot of things are coming into focus for her. The reality that they can return to the planet. It's not all toxic, and you could breathe there, and you could poke around and go back to the living waters. So she likes that idea for sure. And she, eventually would want to claim possession of that whole planet for the Mandalorians. That's what this whole unification rap is all about.
Yeah.
She realizes that their numbers are so slim that they need to come together. She sees that the Children of the Watch, the Orthodox Mandalorians, can coexist with other Mandos because she sees it in Bo. She sees the potential of that in Bo. So she says, hey, let's open up the doors so Children of the Watch can coexist with Death Watch and all the other Mandos that are in exile. And the only one who can really do it is got to be Bo-Katan, because she saw the mythosaur. She's walking with the Children of the Watch, and she's still comfortable taking her helmet
She's
off.
walking both worlds, that she says.
So she can recruit and possibly convert, once they get you in there. They're not going to be done with you until you're keeping that helmet on all the time. But
like Mormons.
But they're Well, I don't know.
kidding.
I can't make.
I'm kidding.
We don't want
the
to.
only thing I know about Mormons is the Book of Mormon. I also know that they're great at business, fantastic organizers. No, I'm not being stereotypical. I do want to ask you about the helmet thing, because there's a couple of ways we could interpret that. Was she saying that it was okay for Bo to remove her helmet because, one, she gave her permission from her station, and two, was it tantamount to Bo almost putting on a disguise? Taking off the helmet allows her to walk among the other Mandalorians that don't subscribe to the creed. So was that a temporary thing, or is that something you think we might see others in the Armorer's covert doing, taking off their helmets, that's going to become a socially acceptable thing to do?
Mm. Well, before we get to that place, I think it's more simple that the Armorer wants to present an environment of coexistence, and so you need to work on both sides really to do that. I don't know how open the Death Watch or whatever Mandalorians take their helmet off. I think they might look down on the Children of the Watch. Why we don't want to join your group? You guys are too extreme for us. We're just gonna, be Mandalores, our own kind of Mandalores. But then if Children of the Watch are saying, hey, it's okay, you could come in here and hang with us, it's all good. We're not going to judge you on that. We're not going to tell you that you're cursed and you need to repent and all of that stuff if you take your helmet off. That's fine. So you have to have that acceptance on that side. And then on the other side of the coin, it's more difficult then with the current Children of the Watch, guys like Paz Vizsla, etc., who are really gung-ho about keeping that helmet on. This is the way, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So to parade Bo-Katan out there, who has been accepted as one of their own, who's proven herself in battle, who's proven her loyalty, to present her out there with the helmet off, with the blessing of the Armorer, that then will soften the Children of the Watch a little bit. So they will be able to coexist with other Mandalorians who take their helmets off.
I see. So it's more about, what you're suggesting is it's about conditioning the Children of the Watch to live amongst the other Mandalorians. It's not so much blanket permission for them to take off their helmets.
No,
it's
you
more
still
about
it's just about respecting, the differences in each other, I think, at the end of the day, while still being able to unite to fight a common cause. And that is to, number one, be able to live out in the open and not constantly be on the run, which is what Navarro is going to offer them. And then rebuild their society so they're strong enough to then go back to the planet Mandalore and rebuild. And the only way they can do that is together.
Right. I thought it was interesting that no sooner did Greef Karga give them this big stretch of land, within minutes, I won't say it. Within minutes, the Armorer wants to move again. I was going to say, like a typical wife, she wants to move again. She wants she wants a bigger house. Within minutes of moving into the new house.
I didn't know the sun was going to come through that window at this time of the day. How are we going to stay here? I'll put you back in the cave.
I just thought it was interesting, because, excuse me, what Greef was offering them was, I love the way he says it, it's not your home planet, but it's your home. He was offering them a home. He was offering them a place that, as Mando describes, offers their children the ability to play in the sunlight. They don't have to live in the shadows, live in the sewers. And it's a huge moment for that covert. And Armorer's like, this'll do until we move back to Mandalore. What do you say, Bo-Katan? Yeah. So she wants to move again.
Why do they want the children to play in the sunlight if they're keeping their helmets on all the time? Who cares?
What does it matter, right? What does it matter?
Can't feel the sun. can't feel the sun. But so that's what I think we're going to see is an eventual evolution of the Children of the Watch, where they're not so held back by all these rules of that seem very dated, seem very dated. So if now, however, we do know that Greef Karga has in prior episodes offered the Mandalorian, in the first episode of the season, offered the Mandalorian the job of Marshal of Navarro,
right?
Should he accept the plot of land out by facing the hot springs, I think is what he said. Yes, Navarro. So he get a nice trek by the hot springs.
Yeah.
In return for being the marshal, he's now going to be the law of Navarro. So here again, we see these Rangers of the New Republic threads seeping into the Mandalorian now. Stuff from the abandoned TV show that was supposed to star Gina Carano.
I think all the stuff with Teva and discovering the Lambda class Imperial shuttle, I think that was all out of the pages or out of the ideas of the Rangers of the New Republic. I do.
The shuttle itself, though, I mean, they were transferring Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon, he's pretty specifically a Mandalorian character. His story is being told in The Mandalorian. So do you think his story then, this part of the story, him escaping and all, that would have been told in Rangers of the New Republic?
I think it might have been. I think that there was going to be a really tight connection between Rangers and Mando. Much tighter
like
than
Boba
even
Fett.
Boba Fett. Yeah, a la Boba Fett, but even tighter. That there would almost be proxy seasons of Mandalorian told through Rangers. I don't know. It was an idea. I just thought so. Every time I saw Teva, especially when I saw him in the barracks with the other New Republic pilots and all of that, or the bar, not barracks, I thought, oh, this looks like stuff that we would have likely have seen in Rangers. But maybe the discovery of the ill-fated Imperial shuttle, that very well could have been strictly a Mandalorian season 3 thing. It was very cool to see. I know we'll talk about that in a little bit, but while we're talking about the Mandalorians themselves, the idea that Bo hasn't really had to, at least in the way that we've been talking about it throughout this season and even during the last season, that Bo hasn't really had to fight very hard for her station, to use a word that the armorer uses, for her station within the covert. She just told this story to the armorer, which now the armorer has sort of given her this title, this mission, this charter to reunite the Mandalorians. I just feel as though it's just a little too easy for Bo. Am I not being fair to her? But it just feels right now like when you consider what all of the other Mandalorians, particularly those in the Armorer's Covert, have sacrificed, and Paz Vizsla does a really great way of summarizing everything that they sacrificed, that it seems like Bo's kind of making it out a little easy. Just feels like to me.
I think they're all getting a kind of an easy ride, these Mandalorians. We're supposed to know that they're great warriors, but they're almost like Superman right now. The Mando, for example, Mando's versus the pirates. Great action, long sequence, but the stakes couldn't have been any lower. It was a walk in the park for the Mandalorians. They just came in there, they mowed down those pirates. I just think that storytellers need to create more challenging situations for the protagonists. Sure, they can win, but let us, they need to take some bullets.
This was a walk in the park, man. You're absolutely right. This really was.
Otherwise, it does. I mean, yeah, sure, one Mandalorian took a blaster bolt to his shoulder, but he got up so fast. Yeah. It was like he fell down on spring-loaded mattress and
Yeah,
just
I mean,
popped right
even
back up.
as cute as they were, they even killed off a couple of Ewoks during the Battle of Endor. And that was that still shocks me. By the way, every time I see that scene. But so you're right that the stakes did feel a little low. I would say that of course, in the episode where we meet a live action Garazeb Aurelius.
Oh my God.
Which
Garazeb, even the full name.
Yeah, oh yeah. I remember that. Who was it that yelled at him? I think it was Hera. She's like, Garazeb Aurelius or whatever. Aurelius. I remember that from Rebels when she used his full name. It's like using the middle name, But no, Zeb, in an episode where we see I don't want to say iconic, but I mean an animated character, well-known animated character brought to life. And this is different than Ahsoka because Ahsoka is more human. I mean, to see Zeb, going from pixel to, well, I guess it's sort of still pixels, but to see him go from an animated version to a live action version, a character that can stand next to a live human being actor was pretty cool. But for all of that, I would say that the pirates never seemed more cartoonish than they did in this episode. They were really cartoonish.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Well, first, Zeb. I want to talk about Zeb.
Let's talk about
You
Zeb.
threw two of them at me, and I got a lot to say about both. Zeb and the pirates. But Zeb Aurelius, live-action debut. Voiced by Steve Blum. So there was no question who this character was supposed to be. Jason just put a shot of him up on the screen there. He's wearing a blue flight suit. He's clearly a member of the New Republic now and fully invested. And so, God, what a relief to see him out of that 1975. He was wearing that 1975 X-Men uniform during all of Rebels. Looked really, I mean, he looked so, in the Star Wars universe here. And he's more purple than I even thought he would be, but really impressed with the way they're presenting this character. I have to admit, when the notion of bringing the Ghost crew to life in live action was laid on us, this is the bad boy you worry about the most right here, Zeb, because he was the most cartoony character in all of Star Wars. Of course, based on that early lemur design for Chewbacca that Ralph McQuarrie was playing around with face-wise, there's an illustration of Zeb that was an early take on Chewbacca, and that's how the Lasat came to be. And I like that he is fully part of the New Republic, and he's out there flying patrols.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get pulled over by this guy.
Now, here's a quick question. Do you think that Zeb was going to be a character in the Rangers of the New Republic series?
I think we're being introduced to elements that are going to be pretty prominent in the Ahsoka series.
Zeb's there to carry through to Ahsoka. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, wow, he'd be the great, muscle for the Rangers. You'd have, at the time, Cara Dune, you've got Teva, you'd have Zeb. It's all starting to feel like the A-Team a little bit, in a good way, in a fun way.
How many animated characters have we seen make their live-action debut in The Mandalorian? Cad Bane, Ahsoka, Zeb. Who else? Bo-Katan.
In the chat, go ahead and
that's
throw them out. Yeah, Bo-Katan. Right.
So, I mean, am I missing anyone else? So I think we're at 4. Of course, Chopper was introduced live action via Rogue One. Yeah.
We saw Hera in a trailer. I don't know if that counts, but we did see. Didn't we see Hera in the Ahsoka trailer?
Yeah, maybe we did. But I mean, the Ahsoka trailer hasn't even been released yet. So
I thought whatever that preview was,
cell phone footage from some convention. Or
it was. I think it was. Yeah, cell phone footage.
Okay, but I think I've heard about that. I really don't do any looking at any sort of scoops anymore when it comes to plot. All those rumors and stuff. I don't even think about them anymore. So I tend to forget what is coming up that we've seen because I fail to commit it to my memory. I want to go into this stuff as clean as possible. Now that you say it, yeah, I think
I feel the same way. I couldn't agree with you more. I like going in a little bit. I don't avoid it. Don't get me wrong. I don't avoid it. A lot of times we'll cover it. Obviously, we cover it on the weekly RFR, but I don't retain it very, very well because it's almost like subconsciously I don't want to. It's like, okay, all right, good. We saw a glimpse, cell phone footage or trailer or sneak peek or whatever. Let's move on to what is actually happening in front of us and playing out, and Bad Batch is playing out, and Mando Season 3 is playing out. So we'll get to all of that in due time. I get excited, but I'm not interested in carrying that with me, so much. But anyway.
But so we got Zeb. And to me, this is the one character I had great reservations about crossing into live action. And I don't think they could have done a better job. I think they knocked the ball out of the park with old Zebarias Aurelius or whatever the hell his name. Garazab Aurelius. I know his name. Don't you send me emails. I know his name. So they're hanging out at this place, which wasn't identified, but how many times does Carson Teva say, that he is an Adelphi Ranger? He's from a Adelphi base. So this is Adelphi. Yeah. This is where they're hanging out, and it's a cool place, New Republic Airfield. Quonset huts. Remember the old Quonset huts?
Oh, yeah.
And they're on a beach. They're on a beach, too, which you can't do better. And the first time we heard of this place was season 2, The Passenger. And that's when Carson Teva and Trapper Wolf, they flew up on the Mando. And they wanted to see his license and registration.
Oh, right.
They asked him to follow them in his N1 fighter to a Adelphi outpost. And so this is it. So we're seeing it now. And sitting at the bar, you got from right to left. Let me see. Can we
see if I can zoom in here?
Okay, so you see, there's somebody walking right in front of a guy wearing a cowboy hat. That's Filoni. And he's sitting there at the bar.
Oh, there he is. There's Trapper Wolf. Right, yes.
Yeah, you can clearly see him.
A Rodian to his left.
That is a Rodian. Is that a Rodian?
It's a Rodian because you see the spikes on the head. And
then I think sitting there is Deborah
Chow. Yeah.
I think. I'm pretty sure there was a closer shot and it looked like her. And I guess Rick Famuyiwa is also shooting pool or doing something.
No, I think I got Rick. I think Rick was walking into. I think this is Rick. Is this Rick right here?
No, Rick's African American.
Oh, my bad.
Yes.
My bad. I thought he was an Asian gentleman.
Yes. And he always wears an LA Dodgers hat.
Is that
looks
right?
Like an LA Dodgers hat. It's like
okay,
but instead of being blue, it's black. But
now
it has
this cat
LA logo.
in the X-wing gear here. This looks like director Peter Ramsey, by the way. I don't know if it is, but it looks like
it could be.
Yeah,
now, I don't know what Peter looks like.
I saw Peter on IMDb, so that's what he looks like. I thought. Here's some more. I just started snapping pics of all these. I thought, okay, well they zoomed in on her. Maybe she's somebody. I don't think she's credited.
Well, they're saying it wasn't a Rodian at the bar. They're saying that was Rick Famuyiwa, but it sure looked like a Rodian to me from behind.
Really?
Because there were like little spikes. I mean, that freeze frame you had, there were like little spikes there.
There were some spikes. Hold on, let's see. I got whoops. Just showing behind the scenes here.
Whole thing, screen grabs of the entire episode.
I do. I this is what I do, folks. Oh, hey, look at that. It's a red snaggletooth.
Well, with a female too.
A female snaggletooth, man. Yeah. In case you were wondering, that's what they look like, folks.
There you go. There you go. Okay,
yes,
so I guess Rick
assumed that Famuyiwa was a Japanese name, being called out here on the chat. I just assumed. What can I say here? I'm looking for that same shot that we had of the bar. That you can see Filoni's cowboy hat in this shot, sort of. Yeah,
there he is. And there's Rick.
Okay, so there's Rick. All right, boy. In that other shot, did it not look like it had Rhodian mohawk going on?
Yes, it looked
I
like
thought
there was
it
some
did.
spikes going on there too, but no, that's Rick. And note that Spotchka comes in many different colors here. We get green Spotchka, we get blue Spotchka. I thought Spotchka was specifically blue in color.
You know what? I was telling Mac before we started, I said I missed Filoni and the Trapper Wolf, and I think it was because I was so captivated by Zeb here, and I was taking all these shots of Zeb, not even realizing that you had Filoni in his cowboy hat. And if you're wondering, how come there's a cowboy hat in Star Wars? Well, Cad Bane. His hat is a little bit more Cad Bane-y than that typical Filoni style, but of course he's going to wear a hat.
Yes,
when he's
and he had a
off
cool
the clock.
bomber jacket on too, much like the one Carson Teva was wearing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
did I mention I'm a big Carson Teva fan? I'm a big fan of his. I was so happy that he was sticking up for the ideals of the rebellion and really giving it to Kane in that office. Man, when I saw her, I was like, oh. Boy, I mean, she does a wonderful job. But, man, does she just has that look you just want to, I really want to see her get her comeuppance. I really do. But when you see them together, I kept thinking, two will enter, one will win. Teva versus Kane. And I love the line when he tells her, he says, your kind didn't see the light. You were captured. She's like, no, we were liberated. And you can tell she knows that he knows what she is, but they're in front of, Tim Meadows, Colonel Tuttle. Yeah.
The ladies'
man. The ladies' man. He's like, you're out of line. You're out of line. No, you're out of order. His whole place is out of order. Yeah.
Well, she's,
holds it.
She's pretty cold, this one. She
she
suggests
is.
Letting the people in Navarro suffer so they acquiesce and join the New Republic. And that's when she gets called out, is thinking in the old imperial way. And she's like, oh, well, I'm used to it. I'm used to it. That's just, that's just the thing, I mean, that was the normal for her. And now she's trying to adjust to the new normal. At least that's the front she's putting on, because when she says, no, I was liberated, I think she's just blowing smoke. I think she's saying exactly what they want her to say.
What they want her to say.
That's what they want her to say. But,
that mind flayer was on low power when they hooked her up to it. And she, I see the light. I see the light. Oh, yeah. She's singing the New Republic hymn. Oh, yeah. She's drinking the Kool-Aid.
I don't think it was mentioned that she was hooked up to the flayer, but...
No, I just was assuming that they did that when they were doing... It was part of their conversion therapy as they were, liberating them. But I did
got
like
a Rhodian.
Teva. Yeah. Oh, yeah, the Rhodian. Check her out. The Rhodian secretary.
She was, assisting Tim Meadows, who, I mean, he's canon now. I got to get used to this idea that Tim
Meadows. By the way, didn't he have kind of a General Lando look to him, I thought?
Okay, yeah,
that
it seemed
outfit.
Like very similar to the old, he sort of implied that he had served the rebellion too, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. So, the beige,
definitely...
I guess it's not just General Lando, but that look with the sort of the two-tone brown and tan and all of that. We got some people in the chat saying that they thought that Tim really phoned his lines in. I don't think so. I think that's just the Tim Meadows delivery. I think you get a very nondescript, the term that, Jim, you were talking about his tenure on SNL, the term that they used for guys like Tim was utility player. He was a Swiss Army knife. He could be whatever you wanted. He could step out and be the ladies' man, or he could also just be, the dude sitting at the bar. He just had a great way of sort of blending in and being whatever you needed him to be. He didn't. I mean, I guess as a kid growing up in that was my era of SNL. The Tim Meadows and Dana Carvey and Phil Hartman and all of that. He did jump out at me, and I went, "Whoa, Tim Meadows. It was like a slap in the face. But I can kind of see what they were going for and what they're trying to sort of show what the New Republic is, which is it's become bureaucratic. They're still just, I mean, here, what is this, 7 years post Battle of Endor, 5 to 7 years, and they're still just combing through data tapes and files and trying to get their arms wrapped around the galaxy. So I get it. I understand the bureaucracy. What I was reacting to a couple episodes ago was a little bit more about the treachery and sort of the ugly side of things. So I'm happier now that we're flushing this out a little bit. You've sort of got Tim represents the bureaucracy. We see that with the the cubes and all of that, and then you've got maybe the overzealous folks, like the ones that were using the mind flayer, and they're just taking it a little bit too far. And then you've got Teva and his type, which I think maybe what it's showing us is that the ones that came out of the rebellion, that served the rebellion, are the ones that really have stuck to the core values of what this new government should really represent. The other ones are maybe a little bit more opportunists. They're coming out of it. Once the war is over, hey, sign me up. I want to be in the New Republic now. Now that I don't have to, dodge blaster bolts. So I think it's just getting a little more well-rounded, or, more.
Well, when the evil oppressive empire gets flushed out of the galaxy and you were part of the rebellion to defeat that empire, heck, man, you want a seat at the table somewhere at the New Republic, don't you? And that's the goal for these Imperials that they capture, who are going through this amnesty program. They're the ones who, they just want to have some sort of life in the Republic. So, it's just life goes on. The Republic was never perfect to begin with. We never saw ground level what things were really like outside of Dex's Diner, if you want to talk about the prequels.
Yeah.
I guess the scenes in Mos Espa, what have you. But, I mean, we weren't really presented with, well, I guess it was okay back then because the people seemed like they had their freedom and they were not being oppressed.
Well, but we were seeing the end days. We were seeing the end of an era. The prequels was the end of an era. And Terrence Stamp's character, all of a sudden, just the name went out of my mind.
Chancellor Valorum.
Chancellor Valorum, thank you. He was the last of that sort of grand Old Republic era, and then of course Palpatine was the big, the figure that really changed everything in so many ways. So we never saw, when you think about it, we never really saw the glory days of the Jedi. I mean, maybe the last day of it. When you see Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan show up on that Trade Federation ship, you get a sense that this was the standard mandate for Jedi that were going out. They were peacekeepers. They were negotiators. They were all of this. But it's almost like the last mission before all hell breaks loose. Because that's really what happened,
And let's face it, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, they were phoning that in until the deadly gas started pumping into the waiting room. They're just like, whatever, here we go again, another one of these. I mean, Qui-Gon's just like, these negotiations will be short. These guys are cowards. We'll just whip out those lightsabers and they're going to crap their pants. Right. Tim Meadows. Right. Tim Meadows is the third Saturday Night Live actor to appear on The Mandalorian. We had Horatio. We had Jason Sudeikis. Am I leaving someone out?
I forgot about Sudeikis. That's right. Ted Lasso himself in an episode of The Mandalorian. Yeah, that's right, folks. Ted Lasso punched Baby Yoda. In case you don't remember, punched him right through that bag.
And there's definitely this, this desire to have comedians appear in the Star Wars universe. Amy Sedaris.
They sure do.
Kumail Nanjiani, Stephen Root. That guy in the first episode of The Mandalorian who's driving the speeder, he's a comedian of some notoriety.
Well,
who am I leaving out?
In Book of Boba Fett, wasn't the what was that fellow that we just couldn't
David Pasquazi.
Yes, David
course.
Pasquazi. That's the one.
He has a vast history in improv comedy.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's pretty interesting. I wonder if that's a Favreau thing.
Oh, Bill Burr,
Favreau's
of course,
the guy
too.
who's really sort of Bill Burr.
Right. Bill Burr.
Zach Braff, who voiced that weird character in
Zach
Obi-Wan
Braff.
Kenobi.
Yeah.
A lot of comedians in these Star Wars shows, That makes me wish, people like Richard Pryor were still around.
Can you imagine? All right,
him
tonight
in
on The
there.
Mandalorian, Red Fox.
George Carlin.
George Carlin.
He shows up in a phone booth. Little crossover there. So.
Excellent.
But if you guys have like any ideas of a comedian now or then who would appear in a Star Wars film or TV show and kick butt doing it, let us know.
Yeah.
Show at rebelforceradio.com.
All right, so switching gears a little bit here, the invasion of Navarro by the pirates.
Yes.
It makes me wonder, why do systems like Navarro not want to be under the umbrella, the protection of the New Republic? We're 5 to 7 years in. Greef has gone legit.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to be, having his hands in anything nefarious. But he was very reluctant. He had no use for the New Republic. They were just going to get in the way. It was another bureaucracy.
Right.
Here come the pirates. And who does he have to turn to? He needs protection. So he reaches out to Teva. Teva takes it to the bureaucrats. So I guess in a way, it's sort of... It really
It's a
does
vicious
prove...
cycle.
It proves Karga right. He didn't believe that by pledging allegiance to the New Republic that it was going to benefit him. And it really doesn't, because Teva takes it to the New Republic. The New Republic goes, they're not one of our systems. We got to prioritize here the ones that have actually, I'm sure it's probably paying the taxes, paying the money, being part of the New Republic. They're the ones that are going to get protection first. So it's really, the Mandalorian, so it has nothing to do with the New Republic. So, but I was just wondering, why are these systems, why would these systems be reluctant to join the New Republic after being under the thumb of the Empire for so long?
Well, that's just it. They think, well, this is just going to be another empire. They don't have faith. It's all so new. And even the pirates know this. Shard says the New Republic can't even protect the mid-rim from the pirate nation. The pirate nation. Pirate King, Gorian Shard.
Pirate Nation t-shirts soon available at rebelforceradio.com.
Oh, there's all kind of merch. There's I got the Pirate King Gorian Shard action figure today. It just was delivered to me. Here it is. Here it is. Look, it's totally articulated. Look at the likeness. Look at the likeness. It looks just like him. I mean, sure, this could be mistaken for a little bit of broccoli, but no, it's Pirate King Gorian Shard. Oh, it's delicious.
Wow. Tastes great cooked, tastes great raw.
Could use some cheese sauce.
Wow. There he is.
No, that's not an action figure. That was a piece of broccoli. But he knows that this is a great time to take advantage of the New Republic. Mid-rim, these guys are outer rim. That puts things in perspective. They're outer rim. You have to pay a lot of taxes to be part of the New Republic.
I'm sure.
Like you said, etc. These guys, Navarro, at the end of this episode, looked very much like the Navarro we saw in season 1. Just decimated.
Boy, it didn't take long,
Nothing
did it?
there. They're back at square one now. So that tells me these guys are, typically non-wealthy. And it was through the acts of Greef Karga that really helped them get on their feet. He was bringing organization, he was bringing community, he was bringing government, he was bringing everything except for law and order. That's why he wanted the Mando to take him up on the offer of a nice tract by the hot springs, and then he could become the marshal. But the pirates show up in their Corsair ship, Shard's ship. And so that's the issue here, is that the New Republic, they've already stretched themselves so thin. And it's kind of like the service industry today. Nobody's working anymore. You got to wait 2 hours for a pizza. It's like, that's sort of what's going on a little bit. But
I'm sure it's very frustrating. Here's the thing. And, they said this about, I think this was attributed to Nazi Germany at one point. They said, well, at least the trains run on time. Right. So, you do sometimes trade a lot for, I guess we might call it efficiency, reliability, things like that. There was likely an efficiency, I think we could assume, perhaps, with the Empire that's not going to be there with the New Republic. The infrastructure, I'm sure it was not easy for the New Republic to come in. I don't think they just flipped a switch and now everything that was Imperial is now, part of the New Republic. I would imagine that there were so many safeguards put in place to stop such a thing that they were probably having to reinvent quite a bit of it as they assumed responsibility for the entire galaxy. So the idea of them having to sort of have a pecking order for whom they were going to provide resources to, that does make sense. It doesn't make Greef Karga's situation any easier to bear, but it certainly is realistic. You can imagine it does make sense.
Something I want to point out about Greef, though. Greef, when he contacted Carson Teva, he sort of twisted up a little bit of history when he was contacting him. He says, you once offered that I might reach out to you. That's what he says. But that's not true. Carson Teva never said, reach out to me if you're ever in any trouble or anything. When Carson Teva and Greef Karga were last seen together, that was in season 2. And the episode was The Siege. That's what it was. Remember when they took Mithril and they raided that Imperial base, and then there was a big speeder chase and everything. Well, at the end of the episode, Carson Teva showed up, and that's what he tried, or I guess he did recruit Cara Dune because she's off serving now. But Greef says you once offered that I might reach out to you, but that's not true. When Carson was investigating the destruction of the Imperial base on Navarro, he was there, he was investigating, he was asking questions, and Greef was being really coy with him. Greef wasn't being very straightforward with him. He wasn't offering him much in terms of information, and he cut the conversation short with Carson Teva. And Greef said, if I think of something, I'll reach out. Meaning information about the base. Then Carson Teva just walked out and talked to Cara Dune. He didn't say, okay, reach out whenever you need me. He never offered that. But to Greef, it was. So that's why I think Greef then says, I am humbly requesting the New Republic to send a patrol, Why does he have to be humble about it? Well, because he shuffled off Carson Teva before.
Yeah, and he says he doesn't do it lightly. The situation is grave. I mean, they were just laying waste to all those poor people. It was a pretty aggressive takeover there with this Shard. And Jim, one of the things that Teva brings up, by the way, I'm going to put the phone number up on the screen, 708-866-1737. So do get in the queue to call. We're also, of course, monitoring the chat. We'll get to your super chats here in a few moments, but 708-866-1737, our call screener, an official RFR program observer, Tyler Page, is standing by, ready to take your call. I see we have quite a few already lined up. But Jim, there's something that Teva mentions a couple of times, and I'm trying to figure out exactly how he's trying to connect the dots. He's trying to connect Moff Gideon, what we find out at the end of the episode, his escape, with the pirates. He's saying that the pirate attack upon Navarro is somehow connected. He's like, something doesn't smell right. Something's not right. How do you connect those two ideas, the pirates, like Gorian Shard, and Moff Gideon?
Ooh, that is something you have to think about based on the things he was saying. Because before he was tipped off to the Empire, maybe establishing a larger presence in that episode, the siege, when they overtook that base. But what is it? Yeah, what's tipping him? Because he doesn't explain why when he's talking to Tim Meadows and the Imperial
Kane
Communications Office.
Yeah, Kane.
The table believes something dangerous is happening between the pirate raid and Moff Gideon. Because he brings up Moff Gideon, and he's looking at Navarro. Yeah. He's looking at I think it's Navarro. There's something there. And because that's really the only connection we're aware of, is the fact that Gideon, the citizens, Teva says it, the citizens of Navarro are reporting that Moff Gideon walks the streets and the pirate raided it. And he's like, So what's the two things that connect them? The planet Navarro. There's got to be something with that planet. Something's going on there. There's a specific reason why that Imperial base / cloning research facility was there. I think. A specific reason. I don't know what it could be, but that's what I tend to believe.
Yeah. The pirates. Well, okay. So we know Navarro was at one time run by remnant Imperials. That was Karga, not Karga. Moff Gideon had a stronghold there. The client was there.
Yes.
And at one point, Greef Karga was complicit. We were reminded of that in sort of running Mando and the other Mandalorians off world because Mando and his covert were trying to protect Baby Yoda, Grogu, at that time. Now that's all water under the bridge. Greef Karga saw the light side of the Force, we can say, with Baby Yoda. And he decided to dedicate his life to creating something and building something great. So the remnant Imperials were gone once Karga was out of the picture. Or, not Karga. Moff Gideon was out of the picture. And he also then had to clean up the pirates and the bounty hunters and get them out of there. So there's a vacuum, and there's a lot of resentment from Gorian Shard and the other pirates for Karga. They kind of feel like he sold him out. He is a sellout. It's like, hey, you were one of us, remember? And now he's gone legit. The bar is now a school. And by the way, it's funny to see those pirates drinking in the school. They're shooting Kowakian monkey lizards out of the trees again, And then I think at one point, doesn't one of the monkey lizards gives up to one of the Mandos where there's a pirate, hiding out. He's over there. He's over there. So they sort of joined the fight a little bit as well. And it was also really fun to see the little freaks, the little Babu freaks, as they
they're hopping up and down.
What did they keep saying? My kids were talking about it and laughing about it.
Ooh. I did not focus on Anzellan dialogue in this episode. I was just like, there they are. They're celebrating.
Shoot, I thought I wrote it down, but they had a little cheer, a little. It's gonna be okay. They kept saying it's gonna be okay.
They're coordinating. Yeah, just like we rehearsed, guys. Oh yeah, there's so formerly this was the bar on Navarro.
Yeah.
It's the bar where Werner Herzog
was, where it all began. That's now a school.
Okay, it's that bar. It's not that other bar where Greef Karga was handing out the pucks and the jobs and everything.
I thought that was all the same bar.
It's all the same bar.
I think it's all the same bar because it all happened on Navarro.
Yeah. I mean, I even have the Hasbro playset and everything.
Yeah,
so you can use it for so many different things.
You know it intimately then. This was a brutal headshot. Did you see this? The headshot when the Mandos swept in. They did that paratrooper type drop in on the pirates and bam, right in the back of the head.
They just mowed those pirates. Just mowed them down. These guys presented zero challenge. The adversarial conflict was slight at best.
Yeah.
In this, and I would have liked to see the stakes be just raise them up a little bit.
Right.
We had like 30 Mandos there. Who had missed 2 or 3 of them?
Well, they were terribly outnumbered. That was the whole idea. They were going in there and they were facing essentially certain defeat. I mean, you had the big fireside chat, with Paz Vizsla, as he was what we thought he was going to actually be, somewhat against intervention on Navarro, but he became not just a Fandalorian, but he also became a Bo-Katan during that moment. A Bo-Katan. And a Fandalorian.
When those two, they did play a big role in saving his son from that nest. And so, he did a 180. At first it seemed like he was arguing against going with Dinda Navarro. But then he does his 180. It's like, because he saved my kid. He's a good guy. And that's what we do. We're Mandalorians. We stick together.
Right.
This is the way. That was a great moment. Favreau really did a heck of a job delivering those lines. And it's probably the most meaty amount of dialogue that Favreau's delivered in the role of Paz Vizsla.
There's people online that claim that's not Jon Favreau. I know it's Favreau.
No.
There are totally people online that are claiming that that's not Jon Favreau. They think it's the guy that's in the suit doing the voice. That is Favreau.
No. That's Fabs. I mean, come on. We've been hearing him voice characters talking about the warrior ways. I mean, you can't miss his cadence. Now, granted, they did add some special sauce to the mix. They pitched him down a little bit. It sounded like they put him through some sort of vocal harmonizer of some sort that played some tricks with his voice, but that was 100% Jon Favreau, no question about it. And just match it up to the old pre-Vizsla season 2 of the Clone Wars. Just grab a chunk of pre-Vizsla out of there and compare it to Paz Vizsla, and you'll be Vizsling yourself all night long.
No, we're not saying Jedi Master Kepi. We're not saying that he's in the armor. No, we're not saying that. We're saying he's doing the voice. He's providing the voice for Paz Vizsla. Yeah, you can tell. Mm-hmm. These pirates, there they are, imbibing right outside. It used to be a bar. Then it was a school. Now it's a bar again. Some folks in the chat were saying, well, what about the gunner? The laser cannon. That was a great moment. I really appreciated that. I thought that the armorer obviously got a great moment to go in there and take out all of those guys. My son did say, why don't they hear her? She's smacking these guys around. I said, well, maybe it's the laser cannon. The laser cannon's creating a lot of noise. and maybe they don't actually see her. But I mean, what a great entrance she had. When you see that silhouette of the hammer, and she even had those whatever those plier things are, and she's like clipping the back of the guy's neck. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. I like seeing her smacking those guys around.
It was cool. It was fun action to watch. But again, as Darth Vader famously said,
all too easy.
Because it was way too easy. I mean, even her big moment, she's attacking these guys from behind,
Yeah.
There is absolutely no friction between the two. It's just Mandalorians mowing everyone down.
Yeah.
And while I can fist pump and stuff like that, I do want drama with my action. I want the stakes to be a little.
It was
higher.
a little cartoony, wasn't it? This battle was a little.
Well, Star
cartoony.
Wars itself is. Listen, guys, you're kidding yourself if you don't recognize that Star Wars is naturally cartoony. I mean, it is. It really is, because whenever they go off live action, what's the best format to tell Star Wars stories? It ain't novels. It's comic books and it's animation. Those are your two best ways to tell Star Wars stories.
Yeah, but there were stakes.
Action.
I mean, characters died, stormtroopers died. They got mowed down at the beginning. You think about the opening of Star Wars, all those rebel troopers got mowed down. So there was death and destruction. And I'm not talking about, I'm not looking for gore or anything, but I'm with you, Mac. I think that we needed to lose a couple of those Mandos to really show that there were some stakes there, because I count all the pirates were either killed or captured, and not a single Mandalorian was more than nipped in the shoulder.
Mm-hmm. And this is coming off of last week, where they spent time talking about how they were going to climb up this really high cliff face to its peak where that nest was. And they said, so high up, we can't even fly our ships up there. But the Mandalorians, they just went right up that cliff face with no problem. And I thought for sure they would run into some adversary or some friction or somebody would slip. I don't know. Give me something.
Right.
Give me something. I get okay. But so I like watching the action, but I want to see some drama. I want to see some real challenges for these guys.
Agreed. All right, we're going to head over to the phones. We've got Patreon member. Of course, Patreon's jumped to the head of the line. So if you want to check that out on patreon.com, go over and search for Rebel Force Radio, or go to rebelforceradio.com and click on the Patreon banner. We're going to check in with Leighton. Hello, Leighton. You're on with Rebel Force Radio in the Mandalorian After Show. You're kicking off the calls this week. What do you got for us?
Did you get your headphones?
All right. Yeah, I did get my headphones.
I thought it was you.
Shut. Yeah, that's right. They are a great piece of equipment. I love them. So thanks, guys.
Great. I got mine tonight. I'm using them tonight. Mandalorian headphones from Logitech. They're pretty cool. And so if you got yours,
looking good.
I hope our little buddy Blake got his as well. So awesome.
I hope so. I'm sure he'll enjoy them once you guys get them. Yeah, they're pretty cool. Everybody should get those. Anyway, what everybody should do is like and subscribe.
Yes.
Anyway,
sure.
So right. No, love the episode today, and loving the show. Also, by the way, guys. So keep up the amazing work. We'll make a couple of points. Run something by you there real quick. Once I do so. First off, I love how, I know this is kind of with all especially the Disney era shows, kind of been a through point with the lack of payoff. And I love that already we're seeing payoff to the Moff Gideon foreshadowing that we had earlier in the season. At the end of this episode, obviously Moff Gideon has escaped, or he's been broken out of a prison, all his shuttle transport there. So I thought that was great that they've already paid that off, dropping those breadcrumbs, and then boom, Gideon's gone. So I thought that was pretty cool. And
Leighton, I do agree. Before you go on to your next thing, and before I forget my thought, I do agree with you on that. And I was thinking about how the action in this episode all unfolded rather quickly. The Mandalorians decided that they were going to go to Navarro to help. First, Greef Karga sends out the message of distress. The Mandalorians decide they are going to help Greef Karga. They're there. They fight a whole full battle, and we have a conclusion. And that all happened in one 40-minute episode. If this was Andor, it would take them one episode just to agree on going to Navarro. It would take another episode of them training before they go to Navarro, and a third episode going to Navarro. And that's before the war even started. Here we get it all, boom, packed in together. And that, I think, is a very important thing. This is not an Andor bash either. I'm just providing the contrast between the two series and how Star Wars can be super effective when it's super fast paced. When the original film first came out, people were surprised at how fast paced it was in 1977. I know that might be hard for some people to believe today, but the editing meant so much, and the way that Lucas moved the story along meant so much to how people experience that whole film. And I think that's a pretty important element of presenting Star Wars, is the pacing. So you had something else you wanted to say, Leighton?
Well, no doubt. I mean, especially when you consider, if you know you only have a limited number of episodes for your season, the more you can pack in and accomplish in an episode, the better. But you forgot the most important part, is that all the Mandalorians in this episode were actually packing Star Wars guns and not, assault rifles.
Okay. All right. Visual
so,
aesthetic means everything as well. Yeah.
It's important. So second point, this is also in that last, that scene with the shuttle, is that, Blue makes a big deal of finding that Beskar Shard in the shuttle. Are the Mandalorians helping out? Did they break out Greef Karga? And there's, I think my first thought, I went to, okay, maybe Moff Gideon had some upgraded versions of his droids, but then, thinking, okay, again, and this is kind of a thing for me, is this whole, the Filoni Fableverse. We've got Ahsoka coming up. We're pretty sure that Thrawn's going to be involved. Thrawn in Rebels had involvement with those Mando commandos that were working. Well, I guess Imperial commandos, essentially, but working for the Imperials or for him. So he's got a relationship with them. Also with the pirates, Thrawn being a master strategist, he's a tactician. He certainly would be capable of manipulating, pirates into attacking a planet that has a known cloning lab on it, that they no longer, the Imperials no longer have control of. Maybe they want that back. So I kind of get the feeling that this is pointing towards tying into their other series.
Let me throw this in, Leighton. Here's how I interpreted the Mandalorian, or the clue that Mandalorians broke out Moff Gideon. I'm reminded of a quote from Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ben Kenobi, actually. We are meant to think they did. So I think this is a frame-up job. I think this is a setup job. I think that Mandos are being the scapegoat for this, because Greef Karga, Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon has a score to settle with Mando. Mando took the thing that meant the most to him, which was Grogu, Baby Yoda. So what better way to get his revenge than to frame his kind, his type, his people for his rescue, or for his breakout. So I think this is right out of the old Imperials trying to frame the Sand people for the raid on the Sandcrawler. We are meant to think they did.
On the other side of the coin, I feel differently. I think that this is a real important story element that's being presented to us. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, there's a concept of the bad Mando, the bad Mandalorians, the Badalorians. Those guys, let's just assume that they did extract Moff Gideon. Who are these Mandos? Could they be part of Bo-Katan's old crew? Axe Wolves and Sasha Banks? Or Imperial Mandos? Do they still exist? Who knows? I mean, maybe there are some Imperial Mandos still within what's left of the Empire. But I began to think about the Night of 1,000 Tears that Moff Gideon led. That was the campaign he led to completely wipe out the planet Mandalore, right? Mm-hmm. Was that an inside job? That's what I'm wondering. Because wasn't there something about accessibility onto the planet Mandalore? Didn't they have a shield or something you had to get through? Or they had something, didn't they? I seem to remember.
I don't remember. So you're saying that the Night of 1,000 Tears, which was the exodus from Mandalore, was I thought an inside job.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a Force exodus, of course. You know, the people were smoked out with those TIE bombers. And so I was thinking, okay, let me get back on track. Maybe not a planetary shield, but they did have those domed cities. And you'd think that those things they could handle any sort of bombardment. There must be some Beskar alloy in those domes to protect those people in there. So somebody opened a dome or something. I'm thinking maybe it could be a Mandalorian. And I'm just thinking about this, if I'm taking it all on face value, from what Carson Teva found. He found a Lambda-class shuttle, presumably being used by the New Republic. So they're not exclusive to just the Empire. I mean, they are cool ships, but everyone would want one. But, right? Because it was the New Republic transferring Moff Gideon.
It clearly was.
So maybe this was a captured ship left over from the war. In the expanded universe of New Republic, they used captured Star Destroyers. Han Solo commanded one. And so they could be utilizing stuff that they claimed from the Empire. We saw all those Star Destroyers parked on Coruscant, too, being dismantled. And they find the Beskar Shard in the wall. We go from Gorian Shard to Beskar Shard in one episode. and that implicates the Mandalorians. So I started thinking, well, what if there are Mandalorians that actually do work with Moff Gideon? They're sympathetic to him. They're the ones who created the opportunity for Gideon to wipe out the planet. I'm just thinking that's on the table. I like your idea, Jason, too, of a setup.
Mm-hmm.
You know, great Star Wars storytelling often has a puppet master in the background, being very Machiavellian and playing his cards just right to frame someone else. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case as well. But I was taking it more on face value.
Yeah, which this show actually is sort of plays out on face value very much.
It does.
We sit here and we have a lot of fun on these after shows, and we speculate and we think about ways that this stuff could play out. But oftentimes, the quickest, easiest path from point A to point B is what we actually see on screen. Want to get to some of your super chats? Thank you so much, Maul Walker. Says it's time to unite the Night Owls through Bo, the Death Watch, Children of through Din, and the true Mandalorians through Boba. Okay. All right. So
they all get
I see. So yeah. So it's all the different ways, the different ways to walk. The warrior ways. Here's Chris. Chris says the Armorer is becoming more a religious leader than a political or executive leader of the Mandalorians. She leads and instructs their faith. She doesn't seem to want to lead them otherwise, not like a king or a queen. I would agree with that. I don't see her as a dictator or having any kind of politics. It is definitely more spiritual. And I think that this is, when you think about it, Obviously, Star Wars Through the Force has a very, very strong spiritual foundation. It relies on this idea of spirituality, and George Lucas specifically intended the story to start to create questions in the minds of young people about the nature of God, the universe, fate, destiny, all that stuff. They can't really deal with that too much because this isn't about the Jedi, this isn't about the Sith, this isn't about the Force. So what have they done? They've actually created a religion amongst the Mandalorians. And I think the Armorer is sort of that, absolutely, is that central figure there. You might say the sort of the Pope of their faith.
And she just seeks to unite. She wants to bring all the Mandalorians. Now, she's seen the light, and now she wants to bring them all together, because she just wants to go to that great forge, and she can't stop thinking about it. Ever since she heard that Bo and Din and Baby Yoda and R5 were there on the planet Mandalore, she's like, I wonder if the Great Forge is still there.
She wants to go back.
That place was a hoot. And we could reopen that place, and I could just be like the armorer of all armorers. That would be really, really awesome. But what did I want to say about the old spiritual leader there? I guess I just, essentially I'm saying I agree. And that leaves a vacuum. Leadership needs to, the type of leadership to really unite the people that might be beyond the reach of the armor. She's just being resourceful. She sees what Bo is bringing to the party. She knows Bo once weld the Darksaber herself. So whether by legitimate means or not, she still has that. We've not seen the Darksaber recently.
No, we have not.
No, we haven't, not at all in the last few episodes. So Din's putting that one on ice for a little bit. Yeah, we have not seen it.
Here's David.
And we barely saw Grogu in this episode.
No, Grogu was not, overused in this episode. That'll certainly make some in the Rebel Force Radio official Facebook group very happy, who are saying there's too much Grogu in this show. Too much Grogu.
Cover your ears, buddy. Cover your ears.
They're always sparring with FJ DeSanto. FJ
ain't gonna hear that garbage.
Oh yeah,
he's gonna tell you to take that what somewhere else.
David says, I thought the Beskar shard showed it was a ruse because a shard stuck in the hull implies a Beskar weapon was used, and Mando's only used Beskar for armor. You're talking over.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
There,
the whistling birds. The whistling birds.
Are those made of Beskar?
Of course they are. Yes. So no, it's more than armor. They actually do utilize it for their weaponry.
There you go. So maybe it was whistling birds. Salby Crumb says, proud of my monkey lizard boys for alerting the team of the pirate ambush. I was hoping to see unified Mandos in the series. Are we headed towards battling sects? Not sex, sects. With that ending, hashtag Salacious Crumb, Babu Frick spinoff coming soon. We can only hope and dream, Salby Crumb. So is that what we're heading towards? Should we take this at face value? This is not a setup. There actually are Mandalorians in league with Moff Gideon, and Bo-Katan is going to come across them as she goes gallivanting across the universe and seeks to bring in other Mandalorians to the fold. That's interesting. Very well maybe. I still feel like it's a setup job, but we'll see. Tanya says, Zeb lives, hoping to see more of the Rebels crew as the season progresses. I don't know about more Rebels crew in Mandalorian, but certainly more coming through. You guys have to keep in mind, I was thinking about this after I saw Zeb. Clone Wars was still George's universe. Clone Wars was George's characters, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Mace Windu, Yoda, etc., Anakin Skywalker, etc. Rebels is Dave Filoni's universe. And, of course, Dave is going to go there and mine those characters and bring them into live action. This is the Filoni-verse come to live action. That's what it is. No question about it.
And even characters Dave had a big hand in creating with the Clone Wars will also be appearing, like Cad Bane, for example. So,
right.
So Clone Wars is still, we might see the realization of some characters in live action from the Clone Wars still as well. Okay, is there any off the top of your head you'd like to see?
I think Dave's priority is Rebels. I think that's.
Well, of course,
that's Dave's favorite child. I think outside of Ahsoka.
But we're a heartbeat away from Hondo Ohnaka appearing in live action.
For sure.
When is that going to happen? It's going to happen, friends.
Definitely going to happen. Casimir Fornalski says, this show needs a higher body count. This is what we were talking about earlier. Original trilogy saw rebel soldiers mowed down left and right, made the danger a lot more palpable, and allowed heroes to stand out. Yeah, I agree. Even as we said earlier, even the Ewoks, some of them made the ultimate sacrifice in Return of the Jedi. Yes. Yeah.
It raises the stakes. You want these guys to at least be relatable somehow. Mandalorians living in caves, wearing helmets all day long. You want them to not be completely like robotic. Right. And that's what I fear the Mandalorians are becoming. We got to make them more human. And so maybe as their culture evolves and more Mandalorians come out of exile into the fold, maybe we might see a little more diversification in the way they present themselves. Because I think we kind of need it, as an audience. I mean, maybe we need a season of Pedro Pascal appearing in every episode multiple times. Maybe, we don't want things to get stagnant with the Mandalorian, for crying out loud. And changes inevitable.
First day with his new tongue. So Chris says, Thrawn hired the pirates as muscle. It's a distraction. I don't understand this whole Thrawn this, Thrawn that. There is no Thrawn yet. I don't want to crap all over Chris's theory, but there is no Thrawn. We're not seeing, I don't believe we've seen a single breadcrumb of Thrawn other than Ahsoka asking where Thrawn is. That was the only real mention of Thrawn. But I just don't, he's not involved with the pirates. I don't think he's involved in Gideon's escape. I think that Thrawn has his own agenda. We're going to see Thrawn, obviously, but I think he's more of a competitor of Moff Gideon's than a colleague. Certainly not someone who's going to be springing him from the Lambda-class shuttle. Here's international Patreon Daniel from Australia joining us from the other side of the world from where we are. Hello, Daniel.
Well, good afternoon from me, boys. Chut, how are you?
Chut, doing great.
So I know you guys already brought up seeing Dave, Rick, and Deb in the bar on Delphi Base. The one thing I want to bring up about Delphi Base is, did you get certainly when I watched it, I got a World War II Pacific Theater vibe to it. Something very Guam or Midway with those old school buildings and the pilots just hanging around there in their pilot jackets, ready to go out on missions whenever the call came in.
Yeah, absolutely. Very South Pacific. Very South Pacific.
So, and I did have one other point with the pirates, the sort of first mate or something of Gorian Shard was very much Shmi from Peter Pan, very much Captain Hook.
Oh, the Ugnaught. The Ugnaught. Yeah, I love that. Talking about the Ugnaught, right?
Yes, the Ugnaught. He just gave me a Shmi vibe all over.
He was totally Shmi. I love this guy. Yeah, I don't. Did he have a name? Did we see it in the credits? I don't know, but yeah,
No,
he was
I
great.
don't think we saw it.
It was totally Smee, right out
What's
of Peter
Smee?
Pan. Smee was Captain Hook's right hand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have not really, made the connection with all the like tertiary characters of the Peter Paniverse.
Peter Pan.
I know Peter Pan. I know Wendy. I know Captain Hook.
Oh,
This kid's name Thomas.
But this was this was totally Smee. Smee was played by Bob Hoskins in the movie Hook with Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman as Captain Hook, and I loved it. Yeah. No, I thought that was a lot of fun. I wish that the pirates would have been a little bit less cartoony. We were talking earlier in the show. Gorian Shard seemed to have a little bit more weight to him, but everyone around him was just a fool. And that Vane guy just took off. He's done.
Yeah, he's
like,
he abandoned
my
the whole
loyalty.
crew.
He was there, you know what? We're getting our backsides kicked here. That's it. I'm checking out. Bye, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was a coward.
He's being charged by the second. Oh my God. Well, that was great for him to check in from Oz. That's awesome. When Vane abandoned Shard, the other pirates said to Shard, "Hey, we have to retreat." And Shard said, "In a puffer pig's eye." I thought that was
I had that as a note. I had that as a note. And I thought that was going to be your sign off, but I don't want to, no spoilers. I got to tell you, I don't pretend to assume that Dave Filoni or any of the crew of this series listen to Rebel Force Radio. We know they used to quite a bit.
Then we got in their heads.
Yeah.
Way too much.
But I got to say, it seems awfully coincidental that Jimmy Mac's sign-off for the Mandalorian after shows for 3 seasons has been Puffer Pig not in this episode, and we get a Puffer Pig reference in this episode. I'm just throwing it out there that it could be a little wink to the Mac. A little wink. Kind of like a, yeah, I still hear you guys talking about my stuff. I still hear it, just so you know.
Puffer Pig in this episode.
All right,
Okay,
Brad from
enough.
Chicago. He wants to weigh in on Boba Fett. What? Boba Fett? Where? Tell us. Brad, you're on with Rebel Force Radio.
Chut, what's going on, guys?
Chut.
So yeah, I wanted to throw another name into the discussion about who freed Moff Gideon, and I think it might be Boba, because he has obviously he has Beskar. I've seen a lot of speculation that he'll show up, and just where we left him last time, he sounded like he didn't want to necessarily do the crime boss thing on Tatooine anymore. So, I don't think we'll get Thrawn yet. That's why I'm kind of thinking outside the box here, because I think they're going to save Thrawn for Ahsoka. But yeah, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts, and thanks for doing the show, guys. Appreciate it.
Oh,
sure.
Well, that's very kind.
So he's saying it was Boba who liberated Moff Gideon? I think that's a super long shot. I mean, they spent that whole season of the Book of Boba Fett really establishing a whole different direction for Boba. And I don't see him suddenly, saying, "Oh, I'm bored, and now I'm going to go bust out the most wanted Imperial in the galaxy." I don't understand what the motivation for that would be.
That's a stretch. I'm sure, Matt had some thoughts or some ideas that supported the theory. But without hearing those, I don't think so. It seems, as Max says, it seems like a big stretch. I think it's again, my personal theory, it's a setup, it's a frame job, but at the very least, if it's not that, then it's got to be, maybe some of the, what is it, Koska Reeves, or the what's the other guy? There's the Sasha Banks
Axe Wolves.
Axe Wolves. It could be them. We know that Bo-Katan was leading I don't think they called themselves a covert, but she was leading a clan of Mandalorians prior to her, I guess, exiling herself there on that. What was the name of that?
Yeah.
It wasn't Mandalore, but it was in the Mandalorian system.
Throne world, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But,
she was in that
they
castle.
ditched her.
They all left her because she didn't have she no longer had the dark saber.
But she didn't have it before anyway. I mean,
that
what difference does it make?
I know. I struggle with that one.
They were with her.
I struggle with that one.
They were with her on that raid on that Imperial ship.
Right.
And then they decide, well, we're with you when Moff Gideon had the darksaber, but now that another Mando has it, nah, we're gonna ditch you. We're gonna leave you at home alone. That hasn't really been explained. Yeah, puzzling.
It was all about, Bo-Katan was all about trying to get to Moff Gideon. When we were first introduced to her in this series, that's what she wanted. She wanted to get to him. She wanted that darksaber, and she was leading a whole group of Mandalorians, and then all of a sudden, Mando gets it, Din Djarin gets it, and now it's see a sister. We're going to go be mercenaries. Lone Star Nat says, this episode made it so clear that we will see a big imp bad during the season finale. We have to be getting a brief Thrawn preview by season's end. Everyone's
pretty singular in their focus here.
I think the Mandalorian's big bad imp is Moff Gideon, gang. I think that's who it is, and that's who this is leading up for us to see by the end of the season is the return of Moff Gideon. I think he's going to have a big entrance. Steve Owen says Tate Fletcher is the current voice of Paz. I don't think that's true.
I don't think so. He stands in for the character and he wears the armor, but that's Jon Favreau, friend.
And that is Jon Favreau, and who knows? There might be reasons why he's uncredited in the role, but could be. Who knows with the Hollywood rules and the unions and all of that.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute. If he's doing a voice, Andy's the executive producer, Andy's the writer, Andy's the this, who knows what they're going to do, but yeah. Mark Jerome. BJ Hughes,
the voice of Pat.
That's right. Babu Freak, steal the show this week. This is the way. I love the little Enzellans. They were awesome this week. They were fun. Every time they came on the screen, a couple of times. My kids laughed out loud. They thought they were hilarious. And they are hilarious. We love them. Tells says, still thinking about the Mind Flayer. Was Favs too spineless to use Borgullet? Or does a Gilroy have dibs on him for season 2 of Andor? Maybe a backdoor pilot. I don't know. I mean, Borgullet would be great. I think Borgullet is sort of a natural, organic Mind Flayer in a way. I think they work similarly, but one's a machine and one's not.
One tends to lose one's mind. All right.
I was in.
But Borgullet, yeah.
I think I was in.
Borgullet get his own show, quite honestly.
I'm down for that, by the way. I was in a Target a few days ago, and I saw a Stranger Things novel or book or something like that, and it was called The Mind Flayer. And I was like, oh man, I forgot. It's very strange. That's a Star Wars thing, man.
Dragons thing. I thought that was a Dungeons and Dragons thing.
You're right. You're right, Jim. It is a Dungeons and Dragons thing, which of course fed into Stranger Things. We need Kyle Newman to call us up on our special hotline and set us straight on what the hell the Mind Flayer is.
That movie opens this weekend. There's good early buzz for it, so I might go see it.
That's right. Chris Pine and various others in that Dungeons and Dragons movie. Here is Danielle and Miles LaFletche. The pirate spin on the Mando theme and the music playing at the Republic Bar were high points for otherwise lackluster offerings from Joseph Shirley. Okay, so a little mixed review on Joseph Shirley, but Danielle and Miles both giving props for having that little pirate spin on the theme, but still not doing it for him. I'm kind of with you on that. The rest of this material is it's weak. I think it's weaker than what we got from Ludwig.
It just seems more traditional television-y kind of soundtrack.
Yes.
I mean, really, Ludwig Göransson, he's the stuff that guy comes up with is really something special. So just about anyone filling in for him, you're going to notice. Tough shoes to fill.
Very much so. Very much so. All right, let's go back to the phones. We've got, let's see who the Patreons are. Oh, let's talk to John from New York. John has been very patient here, waiting. John,
hey guys,
thanks very much. Hey, Chut.
Chut.
What do you got for us?
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
I got a couple of points. I wanted to quickly just shout out to Steve Blum. I mean, I was mentioning to Tyler, I'm probably going to get roasted in the chat here, but I've actually never sat down and watched Rebels all the way through. So I'm not a big Zem fan, but I've been a fan of Steve Blum's for like 20 years or more, longer. Ever since he played Spike in Cowboy Bebop, I've just noticed him in other things. He's prolific in Star Wars video games. And it's just a really good feeling when you followed somebody's career for so long. You knew who they were before they got famous. And now that he might have a chance of being in a Ahsoka live action TV show, I'm so freaking happy for him.
Oh, it's more than a chance. It's a foregone conclusion. It's a certainty that the guy that you've been following for a couple of decades is going to show up in Ahsoka, and who knows what else he might show up in. What we're seeing here. I mean, this is not cheap for them to do. I think this is a combination of CG and some practical makeup effects on this actor. This was not cheap. They built this for a purpose, and I think he's probably going to be showing up quite a bit, or
John,
members of his species.
Well,
let me ask John a question here. John, what kept you away from Star Wars Rebels, being such a Steve Blum fan? I know you're a Star Wars fan and you're a Steve Blum fan, so it seems like Rebels would have been natural for you. Just not an animation guy?
So it's really just circumstance at this point. I have Disney Plus. I could dive right in. After this after show. In fact, I probably should. I can't promise that I will. But when it was on the air, I didn't have Disney XD. I actually didn't have access to cable. I just didn't have access to a lot more things that I do now. And so now that it's off the air, and now that it's on Disney Plus, I'm a full. I run a small business full time, so I spent most of my off time playing Star Wars video games and calling into Star Wars after shows. So
that's a great hobby.
My explanation. But,
well, I was just curious. That's all. I know plenty of Star Wars fans who are as hardcore and diehard as it possibly can be, and they just the animation doesn't appeal to them, so they avoid it. But you had that double combination of Steve Blum and Star Wars. So, and I know you have a Disney Plus subscription too, because you're watching Mandalorian. So I think homework is appropriate for you in this instance. Yes.
I will make sure that happens, Mr. Mack, and I will give you I will write a book report for.
No, listen. I'm real proud of you. I won't read it. Okay, so save your time. Just watch the show. I think you'll enjoy it.
John, thanks for the call, buddy, and thank you so much for your support of us here on Patreon. We really do appreciate that. Let's see. We've got another Patreon supporter here from L.A. This is another Matt. This is Matt from L.A. Hey, Matt.
What's up, fellas? Good to talk again.
Good to hear from you.
So I just want to say quickly, love this episode. I agree with Jimmy Mac's note. Could have been a little more conflict with these pirates, but just to respond to that, I just like seeing Mandos be badass. And I think that's what they were trying to do there, is just show just how capable they are as a unit together and what they can accomplish together. I love that. And I think they're going to have more formidable foe, hopefully towards the end, and we get another Mando collection battle. But I thought we're seeing some of the best special effects in TV right now across the board. And one thing I wanted to call and talk about specifically was the amount of aliens that were in this episode. I think that within the span of this 38 minutes episode, we had more both practical and CGI aliens than in the entirety of Andor as a series, or even the sequel trilogy for that matter in some cases. Like, I just thought that was incredible. I love seeing all these classic aliens. I know we've talked about that on Rebel Force Radio before, but I think this was a pinnacle of what Star Wars should be as far as showcasing the variety of the galaxy and having, the old and the new coming together. Love seeing this mossy Davy Jones yet again and his triumphant failure. Going down with the ship. You got your Babu Fricks. It's gonna be okay. Oh, hilarious. Just bringing it all together. I want to know your guys' thoughts.
You're so right, Matt. I mean, there are, we know what the building blocks of Star Wars are, and one of the cornerstones are the aliens that have become so iconic over the last, going on 50 years. It's so important. I know everyone wants to put their own spin on things. I know that we saw that with the sequel trilogy, but you just don't get more Star Warsy than a Rodian, I also love, when we see things like with the pirates, we see with the tentacles, the squid face guys. When we see the weak ways, the Aqualish, we see the squid faces, and when we've seen the Akbars, of course, the
calamari.
The calamari.
I love that appetizer.
Yes, of course. We chase them around with melted butter. Are
we ever going to be at a point in the future when we're wistfully looking back at Seaweed Head and say,
you never know. We might be. He might be nostalgic for us. Yes, Seaweed Head. But even as we were talking about at the bar with the female
snaggle.
The female snaggletooth. Yeah, it's very, very important. And I'm with you. Keep it practical. Keep those, those prosthetic and latex masks coming for us here in Star Wars. I think it's very, very important. Very important. Otherwise, it loses something.
Mm-hmm. And they sneak in some new ones in on you too. There was
I'm fine with
sort
that.
Of anvil-shaped head guy who was hanging out on Navarro. And just this outside of aliens, something else I observed. I loved how in the South Pacific bar here, they had all the trophies of those Imperial helmets up above the bar. And alongside that collection was the head of a probe droid. So, but I think Zeb probably came back with that trophy, is my guess. Also, I predict it was Zeb flying the Y-Wing into the base in the opening shot, because he can't be seen in the bar room until later in the scene. So he's parking his Y-Wing right here. And then he gets out and he goes into the bar. That's my prediction.
That is
Zeb's
one other prediction. I like it.
As long as we're talking aliens as well, I have one other prediction. The Jar Jar Binks prediction, it was kind of set up last week with Ahmed Best flying the Naboo ship. We think that he's going to be taking Grogu to the planet Naboo in exile. And that's where Grogu will learn how to suppress his connection to the Force so he doesn't get found and everything. But I have another prediction that we're also going to see the Queen of Naboo, who is played by Keisha Castle Hughes, because that actress has recently returned to Star Wars as a voice role in The Bad Batch. And I think that either the Queen role will spin off of that, or the Bad Batch role spun off of the Queen role. But I think she's going to be utilized to play the Queen of Naboo. You only see her once in Revenge of the Sith at the end during Padme's funeral procession. But I bet we're going to see her.
You think she's still holding on to that role?
Holding on?
It's been a long time.
Sure, yeah. No, because it's a flashback.
Oh, as a flashback. Oh, I got you. Okay, yes, as a flashback.
And that flashback will happen next time. Our little buddy, sweet baby Yoda, next time he's with the armor. They're going to be in that she wanted to go there on the planet Mandalore. She wanted to go to the big what does she call it? Where they're smelting. They do all their smelting, Jason.
The forge.
The forging. The forge.
The forge. Right.
You got to reach out with the forge.
Yeah, Geordie the Forge. Here's Ryan.
So she's going to go there, and that's when this little guy's going to have more flashbacks, a la Din in season 1 of The Mandalorian. We're going to get a series of flashbacks, and it's all going to be based around him getting new armor and being there with the armor in the forge.
Ryan says, maybe Gideon works for Thrawn. Hate to say it. I think they're competitors. I don't think one works for the other. I think they're both vying for inevitably Palpatine's good graces. I think all of these guys are in a race to get Palpatine what he wants.
I think Thrawn is still off in the unknown regions. And he's really yet to make a big mark on the post-Empire universe. I really think that. I don't think that Thrawn would answer to Gideon. I don't think Gideon would answer to Thrawn.
Right.
Neither of them are subservient to anyone. So I don't see how that would work.
Devin says, waking up to a fantastic ep of Mando and a double batch of Bad Batch on my birthday was awesome. Cheers to RFR. Cheers to Star Wars. Well, happy birthday, Devin. Yes, it's always awesome, but when it's on your birthday, well, that's even better, man. So absolutely happy birthday to you. Couldn't agree more. Here's Scott, St. Louis. He says, loved Mr. Smee, Ugnaught Pirate. Thank you guys for double duty after shows and great Patreon content this month. Well, you're very, very welcome, Scott. Thanks for listening, and thanks for hanging with us throughout all that content. And these, this is the last week for double after shows. We'll be back tomorrow night, of course, for the Bad Batch double feature. But until there's 2 more shows running simultaneously, I mean, we'll certainly come back and do that. But
let's talk programming, because we have all kind of cool things planned here. Next week, yes, it will only be the Mandalorian after show, but we'll also be live on Friday night doing a review of day 1 of the big announcements that they're going to be making in London.
Right.
And then we'll be back on the following Monday, the 10th, for another live show where we're going to be recapping the entire weekend. And so you don't want to miss those. We'll be taking calls. We'll be talking about breaking news. There's going to be information probably on upcoming Star Wars films. And we will have our salt shaker with us, because we're going to be taking it all with a grain of salt.
Yeah, and I'll have my crisp $50 bill ready to hand over to FJ DeSanto should that film get announced in London, as he is anticipating it will.
I anticipate an Ahsoka trailer. I anticipate more things happening too. So we'll be following it, and then we'll be talking about it with you guys twice. So
twice.
You want to be there for that. Whoa.
What happened to me? I just got really tiny there for a second. Oh, there we go. All right. I'm back. All right. We got to take one more call here before we wrap things up. Let's go with Patreon member Tim from New Jersey. I hate to skip over the rest of you, but we got to get to the Patreons. That is our pledge. So, Tim, What do you got for us? Make it good, my man. Last call of the night.
It's just a Cadet Corky update. So season 5, episode 16, it is Corky and Bo-Katan that busts Sabine out of prison. The dialogue that happens, it doesn't confirm that Corky is Bo-Katan's kid, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're not. But it begins the episode, the first 4 minutes, but they get out to a platform, and then a Mandalorian punches Corky so hard, I don't know if he's dead at the end of it. They kind of leave him on the platform prone. So Corky might have been killed by one of the Mandalorians, but there's a chance he's still alive. And whether it is Bo-Katan is his mother is still up in the air, but highly doubtful. Yeah. And other comedians I'd like to see them do a Luke Skywalker or Princess Leia or Tarkin, face grab of B. Arthur and Harvey Korman, and put them in the new shows.
All right. I'm down with it. If we can get the estates of B. Arthur and Harvey Korman, I think we're in business. Thank you so much, Tim. Appreciate it. Thanks to everybody.
Corky updates.
The
good Corky update. Right. I was really wondering. I'm sure everyone else was listening to us talk for 2 hours, and they're like, how come they're not talking about Corky? What? These guys make me wait all the way till the end of the show before they talk about Corky.
Well, thanks for lighting up the switchboard, lighting up the chat, the super chats, all of it. Very, very kind and generous. All of you, thanks so much. I really enjoyed this episode. It really had, as we like to say, meat on the bone. There was so much to discuss. We got Moff Gideon news. We've got a hero emerging out of the New Republic. We got great aliens showing up, not just the pirates, but also the, at the bar, the Rodian at the office there with Colonel Tim Meadows, and just a lot of world building, more world building, giving us different facets. And I was really concerned that the New Republic was just going to be this stumbling, bumbling group of buffoons, but those pilots hanging out in that base, they're giving me hope. They're giving me hope that all is not lost with the New Republic. Also want to thank Tyler Page. Tyler, my man.
Hey.
Thanks for being with us. Thanks for, of course, screening all the calls. Sorry we didn't get to all of them. You queued so many up for us. We just didn't get to them all tonight, but there's always next week, right? Anything that we might have missed as you were observing the program?
Hard to say about missed. Maybe that Salacious B. Crumb, the Quacky Monkey Lizard, pointing at the ambush. I was pretty busy screening calls. I don't know if you guys got to that. But, I was talking to Babu Freak Barry earlier today, and he had a pretty good theory about who might have rescued Gideon out of the Lambda shuttle. And I hope I'm iterating this correctly, Barry, but we're thinking it could be Fen Rao and maybe Sabine, someone who's, you could see beating the crap out of some imps. Or there's just a lot of, that's the thing. I asked a lot of our callers tonight, hey, who do you think is going to take this? Because I think it's still open as to who they could go with. But I do like Barry's route of Fen Rao and maybe Sabine. And then, maybe by the end of this, we have a whole mini intro into Ahsoka, but who knows? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so what would the motivation be in freeing Moff Gideon?
You're pulling on one of the only threads of the Empire left, right? And you're trying to find Thrawn. You're trying to find out anything you can.
So Gideon might be a clue to where Thrawn could be.
Yeah, I mean, those guys, they don't have a lot to work with, right? So
no, they don't.
I could see them reaching for anything, and if they
tugging on those threads.
They're gonna.
I like it. All right, Tyler. Thanks so much, buddy. We'll see you tomorrow night for Bad Batch, the finale, season 3. I have not watched yet. I will definitely take them in tomorrow so that they are minty fresh in my mind as we do the final Bad Batch after show of the year. But always great checking in with you. Thanks, Tyler, so much.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Jimmy Mac. Final thoughts Episode 5, Season 3, Chapter 21, The Pirate. The old pirate.
Wow, we really exhausted a lot of the conversation here. Karga mentioned the Spinward Patrol passes through here regularly. I don't know if you caught that. I guess that might be the Delphi Ranger Patrol. I don't know who he was talking about there. Clearly New Republic in some way, shape, or form. Greef, he inserted the data card into his astromech, just like Leia did with R2. I love to see those little nods of consistency in Star Wars. His R2 works just like Leia's R2. So, I don't know. Puts me more in the universe. A cool little visual, I thought. I love seeing the contrails coming off the X-Wing's S-foils as Carson Teva landed at the Mando cave. And, the Mandalorians now, they're really set on a path. A lot of the characters are going somewhere in these final episodes. The Mandalorians themselves are going to relocate to Navarro completely. They'll go get the kids and they'll settle in. They have all lands from the Western Lava Flats to Bullock Canyon, which I thought was a great tribute to Jeremy Bullock. So hats off to Favreau or Filoni or whoever snuck that little nod in for the late, great Jeremy Bullock, one of the all-time greatest fan ambassadors and creator of one of the coolest characters on screen in Star Wars ever seen, Boba Fett. So, and a nod to the Mandalorian legacy in a great way, So, what we see happening with the characters now, the Mandos relocate to Navarro. Bo looks for the other Mandos in exile in an effort to unite them all. Din becomes the Marshal of Navarro. The Mandos eventually will regroup, and they'll take off their helmets and travel to Mandalore. The armor will go to the Great Forge. Grogu will get more armor and flashbacks. These are all my predictions for the end of the season. And of course, Moff Gideon returns. Because let's face it, these guys need a formidable foe. They haven't had it really much at all this season. The pirates were pushovers, and we need to see the stakes get higher so a little bit of drama gets introduced into this season before it's over. Because the season's been very slight on the drama factor. New Gunray not in this episode.
New Gunray? I gave him the puffer pig, and this is what happens. I don't even get a puffer pig.
Puffer pig sign off is for the Bad Batch.
Oh, that's for the bad. Okay. All right. Keep them straight. Thanks, everybody, for hanging with us. We really do appreciate it. If you'd like more Rebel Force Radio in your life, we suggest heading over to Patreon, patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. Many, if not all of the callers tonight are Patreon supporters. So if you like the cut of their jib, you might want to check us out for more conversation over on Patreon. Also, we're broadcasting right now exclusively on YouTube. That is the home for all of our live streams, but we do have a very robust channel with lots of content going back over the last 15 years of our podcast adventures, so check all those archives out, as well as these after shows. That's right, we've been doing them live all throughout The Mandalorian, seasons 1, 2, 3, Bad Batch, of course, season 1, season 2, Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi. So if you like this type of conversation and you want more of it, you can go back and check out the archives. Of course, follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and the official website for all things and everything, Rebel Force Radio, rebelforceradio.com. It's all there for you. Thank you all so much once again. We will see you tomorrow for the Bad Batch after show, the big season finale. 2 episodes to talk about. I haven't seen it yet. I'm really looking forward to it because the last couple have been really, really great. Seeing where it ends up. I'm excited, and I'm excited especially to talk to you all about it tomorrow, right alongside Jimmy Mack. Belated happy birthday to Jimmy Mack.
Thank you.
Jimmy Mack. Yesterday was his birthday as we record this live. He thinks I forgot. I didn't forget.
You like to just like drag me along, you know.
It's coming.
I'll wait till the next day at the very end of our hang, and then I'll say happy birthday. No, but that's fine. I don't need it. I'm good. I really appreciate it.
Did you have a good day yesterday? I know in the past you've
had a great day yesterday.
Oh, good.
Look what.
What'd you get? Look at this. Oh my gosh. Boba Fett. Or no, it's the Mandalorian in comic book form. This beautiful sweatshirt. What does it say there at the top? Oh, of course you got the.
It says
this is more than I signed up for.
This is more than I signed up for.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, you know. So I'll be wearing this nonstop for the next month.
Love it. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night, and we'll see you next week for more Mandalorian after show goodness right here. For Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.